In this video, we're going to answer the question, how can I avoid cognitive overload in my webinars? First, let's define cognitive overload. Simply put, it means the amount of mental processing that I need to do in short-term memory. So a very simple example of what creates cognitive overload is forcing people to split their attention between two different streams of information. That would require too much processing in working memory, and people would get frustrated and likely have difficulty retaining the information. So when we're in a web workshop, cognitive overload can be created if we, for example, display a very wordy slide full of text and at the same time talk over that slide, not saying exactly what's on it, saying something related to it, telling a story, and requiring people to both listen to what we're saying and read the information on the slide. That might be one source of cognitive overload. So what can we do? First of all, we can make sure our slides are not wordy, that what we say tracks precisely with the message that's on the slide. We can also make sure that the graphic images that we use support the key message. Don't work against it, complicate it, or clutter it. And we can make sure that we build into our webinars or web workshops some mental processing time. So there may be questions that we ask where we intentionally tell people, I'm going to be quiet for a minute while you think about that, chat about it, or solve that problem. So we give people a chance to think without us talking over them so that they can focus on one thing at a time. I also hear people say, that cognitive overload can be created by putting yourself on webcam. And I have to say, that makes me laugh because that's not the kind of split focus that creates cognitive overload. In fact, if you're on camera and you're engaging with your learners, you're providing an experience of being with a real person in a virtual classroom. And that creates a sense of warmth, inclusion, that actually supports the learner as they work through the material. So though some theorists posit that putting yourself on webcam actually creates cognitive overload, my experience has been completely the opposite of that. And so I want to encourage you to experiment with your webcam, use it to support your learners to create a warm environment, as I'm trying to do right now in this video. And don't be afraid that that's going to create cognitive overload. Pay more attention to how you structure your activities, your what I might call lecturettes, how your slide decks are designed, and how you engage people with content and material. That's where you're going to find the biggest payoff. If you can reduce split attention in terms of content, that's where you're going to get the biggest payoff in your webinars and your web workshops.